So please make sure you use the chat box to communicate with participants. There will be an option if you'd like to communicate with any participant privately. Just click on their name instead of sending a message out to the entire group. All right. Feel free to ask any questions at any time. Just either put a question in the chat box or yeah, I think that's probably the best way to do it. We'll have everybody you have a question, just feel free to put in the chat box. We have a few wonderful moderators who will be able to attend to your needs during the fair. Okay, so before we get started, let me just open us up in a word of prayer. All right, God, thank you for just this wonderful opportunity you've given us to be able to have our students and employers connect, for just the opportunity to be able to see what's going on in our neighborhoods, in our world. I pray for good conversations to abound. I pray for the right information to get to the right person. And I just pray for any technical difficulties that might come across in a virtual environment like this, God, that they would not happen. And if so, that they will be minimal. Above all, God, Lord, I pray that just this time would be a wonderful, warm period of just getting to know these employers, getting to know the students, and just for those connections to be made. In Jesus' name, amen.
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 All right. Okay, so here's how this fair is going to go. So we're going to have a 10-15 minute overview for each employer to kind of be able to present who they are, what they do, what opportunities they may have, and ways students can get connected with them. And the way the presentation is going to go in order, ELIC will present first, then Edward Jones, TLC International School, then ERC, and then SWOS Leadership. And then there will be a Q&A time from the audience at the end for any additional questions people may have for any of the employers. Okay. All right, so let's start with ELIC. And so I'd like to introduce Corey Watson, who will be representing ELIC. And Corey, you have the mic.
Great. Okay, I have the computer as well. Are we good to go? All right, so yeah, like you said, my name is Corey Watson. I work with ELIC, English Language Institute, China. All right, make sure we have the slide here. Great, here we go. And so we are ELIC, English Language Institute, China. There's three things about us. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about us in a second and some options and opportunities for you. But some of the first three things that we kind of let people know about ELIC is we are passionate for education around the world. We send world influencers and serve on teams. So I want to kind of talk to you a little bit more about that. But mainly through all this, we send passionate, committed Christian teachers to teach English in Asia, Southeast Asia, the Middle East, and North Africa. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah. And so, as you can see here, for more than 35 years, ELIC has been given the unprecedented opportunity to educate the future leaders of some of the most hard-to-access countries. And so I'll tell you a little bit more in a minute, but 35 years ago, we started in Asia, in China. And so now we expanded to 6 other countries in Asia. Honestly, we weren't seeking after that. God just continued to open up doors. And now we are actually in 10 different countries in the Middle East as well. And so I'll kind of expound a little bit more on that in just a second. Let's go to the next slide. Great. And so who we send, kind of just what I just said a second ago, we send Christians who have a passion for influencing the world through education, leadership, sports, and mentoring to the next generation of leaders. When I say that we send teachers, we're not just teachers. Honestly and truly, we get a chance to stand in front of these students in these countries, honestly, the leaders of this next generation in these countries. And so it truly is a privilege to get a chance to go into countries, honestly, that not a lot of people just get invited to, and to get a chance to then stand in front of them and teach English and educate these students who are going to be the leaders. We actually have some leaders actually in China, in the government now, that have been taught by ELIC teachers. And it's just amazing to think that when we started in 1981 that it began with just 6 to 8 teachers. And now we have countries like China and other countries, communist countries, that are still inviting this Christian nonprofit organization to come and teach their students. Let's go to the next slide if we can. All right. And so one thing, too, we want everybody to know for sure is as we send people, we will never send you by yourself. We always want to make sure that we send you on a team. And if you've had overseas experience, you might know that serving on a team is very beneficial and helpful. And so that's what we really care. More than anything, we care about you as a person and as a whole. And we want to make sure that as we send you over, that you're going to thrive and do well with your job while you're there. So let's go to the next one. So you'll kind of see these pictures of these areas. You'll see that at the left is 1981. We started in China, like I said, with 6 teachers. And since then, we have sent over 12,000 teachers, and we've impacted over 1.5 million students. Now, that's just students alone. That doesn't count our coworkers and the people that we live with in the communities as well. And so for the past 35 years, we had been sending people to China, and they continue to ask for more teachers. That next picture kind of shows the expansion of our work in Asia. We went to Mongolia in 1990, and then we moved to Laos and Cambodia, Myanmar, Vietnam area. And then in 2004, we actually got invited by the North Korean government to come and teach English. Now, we send Canadians into North Korea. My wife actually is Canadian. She spent 3.5 years in North Korea and got a chance to teach the top leaders' children in Pyongyang for 3.5 years. And so if you're American, we apologize, but you can't go in. But if you do hold a passport outside of America, we would love to send you. There are a lot of opportunities with that. So as you kind of see the next couple of pictures, 2 years ago, we got challenged by some of the leaders within our organization and the church in China and in the Middle East to go and help and serve in the Middle East. Again, it was one of those situations where we weren't expecting or looking to expand, but God just kept opening up doors. And as the same thing that happened in Asia, countries started calling us and asking for English teachers. And one of the biggest questions is always, why English teachers? And you may or may not know, but English is the #1 sought after language in the world today. And so it honestly is opening up doors that have never been opened before and opportunities that we've never had before to stand in front of hundreds. Literally, I taught 300 Chinese students last year in classrooms. And so we get a chance to stand in front of a classroom to get to do it. Now, we don't preach the gospel in front of a classroom. However, we, through our professional teaching and our honesty, we do build relationships on campuses with students and our coworkers and the community. And so as I continue, you can kind of see a little more detailed picture of the Middle East, of where we're at now. We actually are in the refugee camps in Jordan and in Turkey and in Iraq. And so there's been amazing stories that's been happening in the Middle East. And so all these other countries, we do have teachers in and are continuing to send more and more. And it's, again, whether you know it or not, actually what we see on the media today is actually really not even a true picture of what's going on in the Middle East today. Don't know if you've heard, but we were connected with pastors in the Middle East, and they say that honestly, they can't count the numbers of people coming to know Jesus today. And so it's quite amazing to hear and understand and see that what we see as a bad thing going on in the Middle East is actually the Lord's turning it and using it to make his name known. And it's amazing. Let's go to the next slide. Great. So some opportunities for you as maybe even current students, graduated, wherever you're at, we do have opportunities for you. And so some of the summer options and opportunities, 4 to 6 weeks. And then we have long-term opportunities for 1+ years. And I'll go into a little more detail about that. So we'll go to the next. So short-term programs, our summer programs. The first one's called Engage. If you are a college student and you are from the ages of 25 and younger, then we actually will send you for 4 weeks to teach English to high school and middle school students in Mongolia, China, Hong Kong, and even in the refugee camps during the summer. If you are graduated and you're 25 years and older, then there's an opportunity called Summer Teaching Program. This is really an awesome opportunity during the summers. For 6 weeks, you get a chance to teach English to the teachers in the countries that we serve in. And so basically what the governments have asked us is, can you teach our local teachers how to teach English? And so we actually get a chance to do that during the summers. And what a privilege it is to also not only get to teach the students, but then have an impact on their teachers as well. Let's go to the next slide. Long-term programs. The first one you see there is called Project 56, 5 countries in 6 months. It's a brand new program we have. Basically, you're going to go to 2 countries in the Middle East, 2 countries in Asia, and you will start your trip either in Thailand at the beginning or at the end of your trip. You will be in Thailand. And in Thailand is where we have our annual conference with our teachers for 1 week, for them to have rest and to worship together. The next one is called Equip. Equip is a 1-year program, intentional mentorship program for recent college graduates. So if you have graduated within the past year or you're about to graduate, this is an intentional mentorship program where you're discipled, you're watched over, you are helped as you have a leader. You also will be on a team of recent college graduates. And so that's really a great opportunity to learn and grow new cultures and how to teach in another culture. Also, the last one there is University Teaching Program. This is the 1+ year opportunity where you're on a team with young people, old people, families, singles, and so it's a variety of a team. But you're on a team. You get to have your own classroom of students. And with this opportunity too, if you serve with us for 1 year, we give you an opportunity to then turn around and say, if you want a PhD or a master's in TESOL or intercultural studies, we actually have a connection with Wheaton College where they have told us that we've signed a contract with them to say, hey, if you're a teacher overseas, you can actually get your master's online through Wheaton College. And actually they've already, they told us that they cut the price in half of the tuition if you are overseas with us automatically. And if you want to raise your support for the rest of that, you may do so. And so that's a sweet opportunity, I think, to further your development, professional development while you're overseas as well. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Hopefully we're doing good on time. So real quick, just to let you know, again, there's a place for you, whether you're a college student, you're single, you're married, you're a second career person. We want to invite you to be a part of what's going on around the world and what God is doing around the world right now. We're, again, getting a chance, an opportunity to influence the leaders of these countries in the next generation. Let's go to the next slide. And real quick, just to kind of go back over the credibility of ELIC, as I talked about, we started in 81. We really were one of some of the first few foreign teachers in China when we first started, right after Mao Zedong died and Deng Xiaoping opened it up and allowed foreigners to come in. We were some of the first people to do that in China. And really what helped us this whole time was that we were originally open and honest with the governments of China and with North Korea and these other communist countries. Look, we've told them we are Christians and that affects how we teach and live life. And they have told us that's okay. We don't care. We want you to teach English. Just don't do your Christian stuff in the front of a classroom. And so honestly, it's the work of God opening up these doors. And so we are approved and invited by these governments. Again, I talked about over 12,000 teachers and impacted 1.5 million people. And we talked about teams, making sure we make sure that you are going to do well wherever we send you. One important thing too is training. We want to make sure before you leave and go overseas that you are trained well. And so if you go for short term, we will train you for a week in the country that you're serving for those few weeks. And then if you're going long-term, we're actually going to bring you out to Fort Collins, Colorado, and actually train you for that first month for cultural training, teacher training, team unity training, and language training. And so hopefully that is encouraging to know that we do care about your training, but before field, on field, and after. And so we really do take care of you as much as we can. And so, and again, I mentioned the professional development as well, the MA and the PhD opportunity. Let's go to the next one. If we can do that, yeah. Okay, so real quick as we wrap up here, just want to kind of give a quick challenge to everybody that's listening or watching. And, I'm actually not related to this woman, even though she is Karen Watson. She went to a church in California with one of my friends. And so actually she was martyred in the early 1990s. And so she said this before she left. She said, "I'm not called to a place. I'm called to Jesus. To obey is my objective. To suffer is expected. His glory, my reward." And so basically what she was saying here is what we hear from a lot of people is, you know what, I'm not called to a place, so I guess I'm not going to go. And actually I just want to encourage people, look, you are called to Jesus. And so he calls us to go around the nations and to make his name known. And so I think when we put Matthew 6:33 into play, saying seek first the kingdom of God, when we do that, and all of his righteousness and all these things will be added to you. I think it's the idea behind, hey, what if perhaps that every decision that we made, we said, what if we just put the kingdom of God first and say, God, what do you want for me? And just being willing and being obedient to go around the world. I was able to do that when I went to China and honestly got a chance to see God do big things and work. And there are plenty of stories I would love to share. So if you want more information, more stories, I'd love to share. Let's go to that last slide real quick. And so if you have any questions or you want to get more information, you're welcome to text this number. You're also welcome to get on elic.org, check out more information on us. And also you can ask for questions here and get a hold of me. So thank you all for listening and hope you have a blessed day.
All right. Well, thank you, Corey. We appreciate your presentation. Now, this time, if you have any questions for Corey for ELIC, please submit your questions to the chat box or indicate that you'd like to be unmuted, and then we can unmute your mic and have you talk to Corey right now for a few minutes. Any questions, anybody? All right, Corey, well, I have a question for you while people are thinking of questions to type in the chat box.
Okay.
So, for your criteria in selecting applicants to become teachers, what kind of criteria do you use? What are you looking for most for people who are interested in joining up with ELIC?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, honestly, anyone and everyone who's willing and ready to go. I think that's a good question because honestly, I was not an education major in college. I was an exercise science major. And once I graduated, I just knew that the Lord had big plans to send me around the world somewhere, and I had no clue where it was. I just wanted to be obedient and go. And so as that happened, I realized, I never honestly thought or wanted to really teach English once I graduated. However, the Lord opened up doors and opportunities to build relationships on a campus with hundreds of students and coworkers and people. And I thought, and that's exactly what I want to do. And I think that's who we're looking for. We're looking for people, whether you're a TESOL major, ESL major, education major, or if you're a business major, if you're a religious major, whatever it is, we invite you and say, you know what, if this is something that you're interested in, it's not just about teaching. You're going to be a teacher all your life. I just became a new father. I've got a 3-month-old baby boy, and learning how to already teach now. And so you're always, whether you know it or not, you're going to be teaching friends, family, And so why not learn how to do that at the same time, be an impact in nations for eternity?
Awesome. Okay. Before we get to John's question, Osagona had a question. What was the transition like culturally?
Yeah, from here to China, I'm guessing. Honestly, what you hear about culture shock is real and it's true. So after about 3 months, I was there in China. It's culture shock hit, and so it was hard. I think people had warned me and told me about it, but I didn't believe them. But I realized that it was real. And so, but honestly, I think the biggest thing for me was to realize once I got there, trying to understand, look, I'm not here to exactly just change people's lives. That's God's deal. I don't need to change the way they behave and do all this thing. If I just integrated myself into the culture and was willing to understand them and do things along with them, and I think being a part of the culture and wanting to learn the culture, the language, the food was amazing, by the way. And once you get a chance to really integrate yourself into the culture, they begin to see that you care, and they begin to open up. And so I think letting go, for me personally, it was letting go of my American pride of how I'm perfect and I'm going to come in here and change everything. And then all of a sudden I kind of got hit in the face and realized, you know what, I'm not here to change and to make things perfect. I'm just here to share and be Jesus and love on these people.
Awesome. So John had a question. I'm going to unmute him and have him ask you that question. Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead, John.
All right. Thank you very much. Keith, I just want to thank you for everything you're doing here. Doing an awesome job facilitating this event. And Corey, I appreciate you presenting. It's good to see you outside of my car. And
yeah, that's right, John. It is.
Yeah, man, thank you so much for sharing everything. And I just want to just really confirm, something you said. I was praying a couple of years ago, and what God could do in my life. I had just gotten out of the military, and I was praying to do some things overseas and to be a missionary somewhere. And Haiti was on my heart, but I didn't feel like a specific calling to that area. And the scriptures where Jesus says, "Go ye throughout all nations and preach the gospel of Jesus Christ." That really gave me comfort knowing that I was following scripture, even though I didn't hear a direct calling to that area. And my question to you is, leading up into that, I was a missionary in Haiti for 1 year. I moved there in Port-au-Prince, and I wasn't there with any group. It was just me. I started a mission program there. And I had to teach myself Creole through a Haitian Creole. It's a dialect of French, through a program that I found on Amazon. And so I'm not familiar, with exactly how a group could help you to understand the culture and the language. Do you have a process in place along with the discipleship process? You were talking about to help someone to learn Chinese. Is that the language you guys?
Yeah, man. Good question, John. I appreciate that. And you know what? Actually, one of the crazy things is I didn't know until I showed up to China is that the Chinese actually learn English from grade 1. And so they honestly know how to read and write English better than a lot of us, definitely me for sure. But speaking it is something that they don't practice a lot of. And so we come in and we actually get a chance to help them through communication. How do you have a normal conversation and stuff like that? And so honestly, you don't need to know the language. But if you serve 2 years with us, we give you an opportunity then to turn around the next 2 years and go to language school to learn. That's all you do for the next 2 years is just language school in the country that you're serving in. And you get a chance to really, once you do learn the language, it is easier to get around the city. and to be able to talk with your students
Mhm.
and friends. But you definitely don't have to know it, but it is beneficial at some point to know it. It was amazing to be able to see how many students actually knew how to speak English and were able to hold a conversation with me, and then turn around and translate everything that I was able to say to their friends who weren't able to speak Chinese. So it's really cool. And answer to the discipleship question, we get a chance to do that, but at the same time, we actually we don't directly work with the underground church, but we actually we just kind of introduce them when we know people who kind of need help and kind of lead on, because we want them to really get their own people, right? I mean, trying to build up their own people group, and we don't want to come in there and trying to change everything, but just trying to help them grow together. And so that's what we do in that sense. So,
Wow. Well, thank you very much. Yeah,
you're welcome.
Answers my question.
Yeah, thanks for the question, John. Appreciate it. And it also is good to see you outside your car, for sure.
All right, thank you, John. Appreciate your question. We have one more question for Corey before we move on to our next presenter. We have a student here who says they already have a master's with some toward a theology, a THM, and I have a teaching certificate. They just joined late, but they ask what opportunities are available for someone with an artistic skill set certification.
Yeah, good question. There's a lot of opportunities. So honestly, it's interesting because we started off teaching English, and at every school that we show up at, there's always teachers and leaders in these schools that ask, we know that you're only teaching English, but can you also teach medical English? Can you also teach business English? Can you also teach art English? Can you do this? And so that was one reason why I got a chance to teach medical English for a year and a half in Nanjing, China, just because not only were we teaching them normal English conversational-wise, we're teaching them specific to their degree, and they begin to ask that. Now, not every school does that. We can't promise that all the time, because honestly, if you've ever worked with another country, it's ultimately up to them what they choose you teach. And so, but there are opportunities. Now, there's more opportunities opening up in the Middle East and the refugee camps. If that's something that's on your heart, this is a recent thing that's going on. It's amazing what's going on in these camps. We're connected with the pastors in those areas, and there are people. They've literally told us if you knew how many people were coming to know Jesus in the Middle East, you wouldn't believe it. Just because there's hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people coming, and they said about 60% of them are having dreams of Jesus before they come to know him. And so, one amazing movement that's going on, and that we get to be a part of in the Middle East, and actually we're teaching the kids and their parents in these camps, and part of that is allowing you to teach what your degree is in certain areas. I hope that's helpful.
All right. Well, thank you, Corey. We're going to, for time's sake, move on to our next presenter.
Yeah, thank you all. Appreciate it.
All right. So now we're going to have Jamie Stallings representing Edward Jones Financial Investments. Jamie, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes. All right. Okay. So we're going to move on to your part of the PowerPoint. And so you can begin whenever you're ready.
All right, give me 1 second. All right, so there we go. All right, well, thank you all for joining us today for the presentation. I am a Edward Jones financial advisor, and I have been for about 3.5 years. Prior to this, I was in the Navy, and I did that for 21 years. Did that right out of high school, retired at 39, and went on to my second career as a financial advisor for Edward Jones. What brought me here, I guess, originally was I was looking to become a contractor with the military after I got out, and ultimately 2013 sequestering happened, and there was a lot of drawbacks on government contracts, And because of that, I ended up choosing a different path outside of the contracting world, and decided, I had a friend of mine who had been with Edward Jones for 20 years, introduced the opportunity to me, and I wanted a chance to be able to make unlimited amount of money, but more than the money side of it, I wanted to be able to help people plan for a retirement, be able to put their kids through college, and be able to make sure that they were prepared for the unexpected in case something were to happen. So that's my story, and we'll move on to the next slide. So the agenda for today's presentation is, it's basically, here's a snapshot of what we'll cover today. Outline the company and share some history with you, give an overview of the financial advisor opportunity, the support of our financial advisors received to be successful, the financial advisor candidate qualities, the application process and next steps, and any questions you may have for me at the end. So next slide. So before we get started, I wanted to provide you with some information on Edward Jones. We were founded in 1922 by Edward D. Jones Sr. He was determined that his company treat clients fairly by offering appropriate quality investments. Our headquarters are in St. Louis, Missouri and Tempe, Arizona, so we have two separate headquarters. We grew from 304 offices in 1980 to more than 11,000 U.S. branches today, and we actually have over 14,000 if you include Canada in that. We're an organization committed to supporting our clients in the communities where they reside. So for instance, I live in Williamsburg, Virginia, and my office is in Williamsburg, and I would say probably 95% of my clients that I have are also in Williamsburg. We have a different business model that will be discussed further in the presentation. Next slide. So Edward Jones stands out from our competitors in 4 different ways. Commitment to serious long-term investors. While other firms may try to beat the market, our philosophy is long-term investing with an emphasis on quality and diversification. A single financial advisor office in a convenient location. Other firms have single offices with multiple advisors. At Edward Jones, you have your own office and you are in control of how it's operated. Branch office administrator support. Our business model is designed around the branch team. We feel that the client deserves full-time service and that our financial advisors deserve to be able to spend as much time as possible with their clients and with their families. The burden of administrative work and other tasks that don't require the expertise or licensing of a financial advisor are better performed by a branch office administrator. That's why the firm provides a dedicated administrator for every branch. And my branch office administrator, her name is Lori Lehman, and she's been with the firm for about 14 years now. So she's a huge asset to me. Home office support. Finally, our home office is always available to help when you need. Whether it's a specific question about a product or how to best attract new clients, the home office will help you with that as well. Next slide. So let's consider what sets Edward Jones apart in the industry. We like to call them the pillars of our success. The business model. Our business model is unique within the financial services industry. Our clients' interests always come first, and our investment philosophy speaks to that by focusing on providing the solutions to help meet their needs. We are a large partnership in the financial services industry. We believe our partnership structure allows us to have a strong, long-term view and be in control of our destiny. We have a streamlined business model. All of our international businesses are focused on supporting the single financial advisor profit center. We don't have a trading desk competing with our financial advisors. Our single financial advisor office model promotes accountability to run a legal, ethical, and profitable branch. This structure fosters the best aspects of our culture. Our financial advisors work autonomously and have an entrepreneurial spirit. Next slide. Actually, I'm sorry, stay on that slide, I apologize. The growth strategy pillar. We believe we have a responsibility to benefit the communities in which our branches are located. Our financial advisors come from many different career paths and many different cultural backgrounds. Yet we share one goal, helping individuals reach their serious long-term financial goals. Edward Jones grows organically, which is a departure from the industry norm of growing through mergers and acquisitions. Edward Jones focuses on quality. We look for professionals with a track record of success and who are driven to succeed. Our cultural heritage. Our cultural heritage runs deep, and we have a deep respect for our founders. Our firm was founded by Edward Jones Sr. in 1922 when he decided he wanted to be paid fairly for his hard work. His son, Ted Jones, took this one step further. He was an ardent believer that only those who work for the firm should own the firm. One of his most famous sayings is, "I don't need partners to share the profits. I need partners to share the work." The partnership is woven throughout our culture and has led to a spirit of volunteerism to help others. Edward Jones Associates meeting certain criteria have historically had the opportunity to invest in Edward Jones' parent company, the Jones Financial Companies, LLLP. In fact, there are approximately 20,000 limited partners of JFC, all of which are currently or former Edward Jones Associates. And as a part of our culture, we have career-long training and believe in developing our existing financial advisors as the future leaders of our firm. Next slide. So as you can see here, it's a great place to work. There's a highlight there from the Fortune 100 Best Companies. For the 17th year, Edward Jones was named one of the best companies to work for by Fortune magazine in its annual ranking. The firm ranked number 10 overall, and we've been in the top 10 finishes for the last 13 years. Also, top 20 in training, top 125, the 2016 winner in the 16th consecutive year on the list. Edward Jones was named a top company for training, ranking number 32 on the Training Magazine 2016 training top list. Next slide. The financial advisor position. We cater to the long-term serious investor and look to build relationships and help our clients reach their financial goals. We build relationships in the community where we work by meeting people face-to-face and getting involved in community activities. Edward Jones Financial Advisors focus on the unique needs of each individual investor. We know that not every investor is the same, so we provide customized solutions to meet each investor's specific needs and goals. Most branches have one financial advisor and one branch office administrator, or BOA. The BOA provides support to the financial advisor as he or she builds his or her practice. Training and support. Edward Jones provides extensive industry-leading training and will even pay you while you are getting your license. Many financial advisors at Edward Jones joined us with previous experience in the financial industry. And that's okay because Edward Jones training program is designed to teach you the technical aspect of investments and portfolio, as well as how to effectively build a practice in your local community. Training doesn't end after you complete the initial training program. Edward Jones provides ongoing training to help you grow in your career and will offer development and leadership opportunities based on performance. In addition to the training that Edward Jones provides, many new financial advisors find that other experienced financial advisors are there to support their development. We have mentors and field trainers who volunteer to help new financial advisors as they begin their career. Finally, our home office is always available to help you when needed. Whether it's specific questions about a product or how to best attract new clients, the home office will help. So next slide. Compensation. One more, there you go, compensation. At Edward Jones, we realize that building your practice takes time. To help you to build your practice, we offer a program designed to give you support during your initial training and throughout your first years as a financial advisor. Trainee pay and salary. During the months you spend studying for your industry licenses and completing your training, you will be paid bi-weekly for the hours worked. After that, you will be advanced a salary. Your salary amount will be adjusted as you move toward compensation based more on commission and bonuses. Salaries are adjusted based on performance standards for the first 3 years. Commissions. During your first 4 years as a financial advisor, commission payouts will vary based on years of experience, the state in which your branch is located, and the type of product. Bonuses. You have the potential to receive several bonuses throughout the first 5 years while you build your professional practice. There are milestone bonuses paid every month to financial advisors who are a certain percentage above standard during your first 3 years as a licensed financial advisor at Edward Jones. New asset bonuses, paid monthly based on the accumulation of a specified new asset brought to the firm during your first 5 years as a licensed financial advisor with Edward Jones. Profitability bonuses, cash bonuses that are earned and paid by trimester based on the branch and firm profitability. Profit sharing, historically approximately 24% of the firm's post-bonus profit given to associates by way of a contribution to your Edward Jones retirement plan or a bonus. As an Edward Jones financial advisor, you are 100% vested in your profit sharing account from day one. Travel program. Financial advisors who meet certain criteria may qualify for trips through the Edward Jones Travel Award Program. These financial advisors are recognized with various trips around the world. And on that note, I actually just got to take my wife and I to Mexico this summer in July, and she had never been out of the country before. I traveled extensively in the Navy, but we were actually able to go on a vacation, a week-long paid vacation, and that's where I was actually, it was an all-inclusive resort in Riviera Maya, Mexico, and it was unbelievable. Next slide, please. What qualities are we looking for? At Edward Jones, we're searching for individuals who have a track record of professional success. This can be demonstrated in a multitude of ways. Perhaps you are a project manager that has shown focus and success on a multi-year project you implemented. Maybe you're a small business owner who has worked over the last 5 to 7 years to promote and launch your product. With so many ways of demonstrating success, we encourage you to have a conversation with a recruiter. With one of the financial advisors, one branch office administrator structure, we're looking for individuals who are autonomous and driven. Not only will you be managing daily operations of an office, you'll also manage your branch office administrator. At the same time as the industry changes and new products are made available, it's important to have self-discipline and direction to continue running a successful practice. Building your practice takes time, and we are looking for people who want to put the work in up front. Once in the field, the first 3 years are about making connections through face-to-face interactions. Edward Jones will give you the tools to be successful, but it's up to you to be focused on using those tools. This can be challenging, but in the long run can lead to a lifelong client that will trust you in counseling them on financial decisions. Next slide, please. So the application process. The application process takes about 30 to 45 days to complete. If you decide to pursue the opportunity, a recruiter will have an in-depth conversation regarding the process. Within the process, there will be a number of interviews, both phone and face-to-face. The application process also has a virtual day-in-the-life assessment as one of the final steps. Overall, the process is designed to help you experience what it means to be a financial advisor and allows our recruiters the opportunity to gauge your fit for the opportunity. Next slide, please. Next steps. There are multiple steps within the process, but there are a few that really need to be pointed out. Submit your resume. We encourage you to submit your resume by visiting careers.edwardjones.com/apply. Talk to a financial advisor. Connect with an Edward Jones financial advisor and ask them about their experience. Set up a call or ask them to meet you for coffee. If you're having an upcoming event, mention the event and how that will be a great opportunity to connect with a financial advisor about the opportunity. Visit careers.edwardjones.com for more information about the role. Edward Jones has recently redesigned this site, and there is a great information on the process. The topics that we spoke about during the presentation go more in depth on the website. Also, you can view profiles of some of our advisors, and we have landing pages outlining support programs for military, women, and diverse candidates. Frequently asked questions. Address each one of these with everyone. Is it a good time to get into the financial services industry? So that's one question a lot of people ask. This is a question I often get, and my response is yes. I cannot think of a bad time to get into the financial services industry. First, with the baby boom generation, there are 10,000 people turning 65 years of age every single day, according to Pew Research. These individuals need our help making sure their money is invested in a way that helps them enjoy their retirement. And for those who are not 65 yet, they need our help to build a strong retirement plan. Start a college savings plan for their children or grandchildren, save for their dream vacation, or whatever that may be. And if the market dips like it did in 2008, investors need our advice on what to do next. It is our job to help alleviate their concerns and keep them on track to reach their goals. The next question, can I afford to start my own practice? This is probably my favorite part about Edward Jones. Edward Jones pays you while you're studying and starting to build your practice. There aren't many opportunities that offer you the autonomy and freedom to run your own practice without requiring a lot of upfront capital. What is the likelihood that I will succeed? This really depends on two things. Number one, follow the recipe for success that Edward Jones teaches you in training and don't try to change it. And number two, hard work, making regular face-to-face contacts with clients and prospects. So that would be that. And next slide is for question and answer. So if anyone has any of those, please go ahead and give that to me. But before we do that, thank you for allowing me to be a presenter today in today's career fair.
All right. Well, thank you, Jamie. Appreciate your presentation.
Sure.
And right now we're going to see if there's any questions that people have. You can submit your questions on the group chat or message Jamie privately afterwards as well for the rest of our time today, if you can't think of any right now. So yeah, anybody have any questions at the moment? All right, Jamie, well, I have a question while people are typing and putting their questions in the chat box for you.
Sure.
So what opportunities are there for advancement with Edward Jones starting off being a financial advisor?
That's a great question. So I actually just was hanging out with a friend of mine over the weekend, and he works for a beer distributor here in Virginia. And he was saying that currently the position that he's in, it's like a craft brand manager, I think is his job title. And he reports directly to the vice president of the company, who is one of the kids of the people who own the company. So really no upward mobility for him in the company at all. And for myself, one of the things that I disliked about the military was no matter how hard or how little I worked, my paycheck was basically the same thing on the 1st and 15th of every month, where no matter how hard I worked and no matter how much extra work I did, you really couldn't make any more money. So that was one of the biggest downturns for me on that. Whereas with Edward Jones, your income is really limitless. But as far as the opportunity, you really are from day one building your own branch and building your own business in the community in which you live in. So really, you can make it as large or as small as you would like. Myself, I would like to manage probably about $250 million of people's money. It just truly depends on how much work you want to put in and how large you want your practice to be and how many clients you would like to have. But absolutely, the sky is the limit as far as the upward mobility and the potential for advancement, because really there's a financial advisor, and then you can even become a limited partner or even a general partner in the firm, where you go and work back at the home office, and then you're no longer a producer, as they call it in the financial industry. So you really can go all the way up. And the general partner of our firm, Jim Weddle, actually started off as a financial advisor.
Okay, cool. That's very awesome to hear that. I have some questions that have come up on the group chat. The first one here says, how do customers pay for services? Is it generally fee-based, or is it based on fees for certain products that are sold?
That's a great question. One of the things that is happening right now, if you guys aren't all aware of that, is the Department of Labor came out with something called the fiduciary ruling. And I'm not going to get into the weeds of the details and the minutia of that. But what I will tell you in layman's terms, fiduciary ruling means nothing more than doing what's in the best interest of the client. So I will say that and this governs IRAs, individual retirement accounts. Most people have an IRA because they had a 401k they did a rollover of, or whatever the case may be, and all of those are going towards a fee-based structure. However, we do offer grandfathering of certain IRAs. We also have other accounts that are transaction-based accounts. So you can do and build your business however you see fit, as long as it's legal, ethical, and profitable. Hope
Awesome.
that answered the question.
Yep. Okay. So next question is, what are the licenses that are required before or after employment?
Okay. Well, like I said, I was in the Navy. I was a fire controlman in the Navy, so I shot missiles off of ships. So absolutely no financial background whatsoever. And I came over to Edward Jones with no experience. I did have a business degree. I got an online degree while I was in the Navy. Basically, it was a bachelor's in organizational management is what I got my degree in. But there are a lot of people who work for Edward Jones who don't have a degree. But while you get hired on, after you get hired, they will get you into the study program where you begin studying to pass your Series 7, your Series 66, and also your life insurance and long-term care insurance licenses, and they will pay you while you're going through the study program.
Great. Okay. Questions keep coming. So what's the starting salary for a new advisor while they're training?
It's completely based on a couple of different factors. I came into the program, into Edward Jones, under a program called Forces, and they gave me a guaranteed salary. And that salary, I want to say, started out at $6,000 a month, but it's not the same for everyone. Sometimes it's based on a certain percentage of how much it was that you made at your previous job. They will pay you a salary based on that. There is a minimum guaranteed salary that they have to pay every financial advisor, and I want to say that it's somewhere in the ballpark of $30,000 to $45,000. That's changing as we speak as well, and that just changed this year as well. So there's a lot of questions that I could talk to people individually offline about specifics, but really that would be something that everyone's compensation when they come into the firm is completely different based on their previous experience and all that.
Great, thank you. Two more questions and then we'll move on to the next presenter. The second to last question is there much need for any office administrators in the Norfolk area?
Absolutely there are. We are always hiring new branch office administrators because they really are the ones who keep the offices running. I know that Lori is a godsend to me. I just got her here at my office in June of this year. And I would honestly, if I could quantify how much of a difference she has made to my office, I would say that my productivity has probably gone up production-wise, just gross commissions and things like that, at least 25%, just based on the amount of work that she took off of my hands and actually took over and did the things like the slides were saying, that letting her do the things that don't require a license and letting me do the other things that do. So there's always an opportunity here, and they call it a branch office administrator position. But if you don't want to do that full time, if you wanted to do part time, they call it an on-call BOA, and you can do that as well. And you can find more information about that on the career website on Edward Jones's website.
All right, Jamie. Great. Last question for you before we let the next presenter go. Is there any type of commitment after the training?
There is not. So that's a great question. I had someone ask me that the other day, and I actually had our regional leader there who's been with the firm for over 20 years, and they were saying, the person that was at our recruiting event that we were doing down in Newport News, they asked the question, they said, so what's to keep somebody from coming in there, getting you to pay for them to get their license, and then the very next day they leave and go to a different firm and do it somewhere else, or maybe do it on their own? And the answer from the regional leader was nothing. However, he's been doing it for over 20 years, and he's never seen someone leave immediately right afterwards. But there is no contract that you sign for a certain amount of time or anything like that.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jamie. We're going to move on to our next presenter. And any students who have any more questions, feel free to send a question via chat privately to Jamie on the participant list. And I'm sure Jamie will be more than happy to speak with you further. All righty.
I will. Thank you.
Okay, so now we're going to have TLC International School present next, and that is represented by Matthew Kemp. Matthew, are you there?
I am, yes, thank you.
Great. Okay, well, let's move on to your slides, and you can feel free to get started.
Okay, thank you. You can go to the first slide for me. TLC International School is actually started by my family. We are a family of educators. My father was a Christian school administrator for 25 years here in the States, and the opportunity to move to Dongguan happened when we actually had an exchange student from China whose father was the head of the English, teaching the English departments in the universities, the Chinese universities in Dongguan, and wanted to start an international school. As you heard earlier from Corey, one of the things that is a great opportunity in China is the opportunity to be able to get into countries and use English education as a way to impact people for the kingdom more than anything else. And our family looked at it as an opportunity that this international school was going to start. And it probably is going to either be run by a Christian or a non-Christian. And so the opportunity presented itself, and my father decided to take that on. I'm not going to read these slides to you necessarily. I'll let you kind of read through them. And I wanted to really just kind of talk through what the difference is between a true international school and then teaching English. Because we spent 4 or 5 years over there developing relationship with the community. It's a very important part of what you have to do as a ministry, is develop the right relationships. And then it became where we had enough families who started asking if we would do something at an international school level. So we have actual students from 19 different countries. Dongguan is the most westernized city in China. There's pockets of you where there's a lot of industry that comes in there. So we get a lot of families that are from all over the world that have been brought in really to run industries. And so they need a place that they would like their children to be able to learn, but it's not strictly for Chinese. The Chinese actually have probably a little bit of a harder process of getting into an international school with some of the regulations. They have to decide at a much earlier age whether or not they're going to do international school, because they have to follow it up with international degrees in universities. And a lot of times the Chinese government won't recognize, what they get from other places. So we have found it as being a real solution to some, especially Chinese families who were used to sending their children over, getting a student visa, sending their children over to the States, for 4 or 5, 6 years, whatever they could afford, to get their last years of high school, in the States, and then go on into Western universities. We're now kind of providing that need for them where they don't actually leave the country, but they get a school that is just like going to the school in the States, but it's actually based in China. You can go to that next one, for me, please. One of the things that we do now is what we're looking for is for teachers. The Lord has really been blessing this. If you want to kind of think of TLC, and if you look at TLC, it stands for Trinity Learning Center. So our name doesn't necessarily make a lot of sense when you look at it from Trinity Learning Center International School, but everybody we started as a learning center and then became an international school, and everybody recognizes that brand now of TLC. One of the things that we've tried to make sure that we do is create an environment based on biblical principles, and it's something that Chinese especially don't experience in regular education that they get around. They don't experience things that are based in love, smaller classroom sizes. We went over there, my wife and 4 kids. We spent a year over there developing one of our new. We have a couple of campuses in different areas, and so I started one in Shenzhen. And we're really kind of following the model now of almost like a Chick-fil-A, where we've been asked to go into a lot of different areas now and take everything that we're doing at TLC and bring it to different areas. A lot of there is the Christian movement in China is really exploding. There's a lot of Chinese Christian businessmen that see what's going on with TLC. We have a variety of ministries that we are doing underneath the umbrella of the school. And so a lot of them are seeing that and asking if we would come and do that. And that is really one of the things that is driving us to continue to find, new people who are interested in going over there, because right now we're only limited by the number of people that we can get over there, to help expand. You can go to the next slide for me, please. TLC, we're looking really for people who have an education degree. Because we are now an accredited school, we have to have certain qualifications, for you to be able to be a core teacher for us. So we're looking mainly for people who have an education degree and are wanting to teach in a school just like you would teach in your home state, but internationally. And so we do have some other opportunities that are not based on an education degree, and those are continually happening, where especially with some of the new locations we need people to do accounting for us. We need some people that are interested in doing our IT. Well, we also have a church base in every place that we've gone. So we have right now, because of some of the relationships that we've been able to develop with our local government, every Sunday we have church. There's also TLC is associated with Trinity Bible Fellowship, which is our church. We have been blessed to be a part of establishing a Brazilian church, a Korean church, from our leaders that have been able to come into the school. Those groups kind of flock together, and we've been able to help them facilitate starting a church, training a pastor to do that, and they meet kind of at different places. Through the community. We also now have been able to be blessed enough with some of our associations to actually have Chinese nationals that have come in, which at the very beginning we had an underground church that would meet on Saturdays, and we would meet on Sundays. I was the Chinese pastor when I was over there, and then in those services we would worship together, and then we would break up and have an English service and a Chinese service, and I would do the Chinese, service there. So there's a lot of different opportunities to be involved in, in music and ministry and work with the teens, just like you would do over here. It's just located over there with a lot of different nationalities represented. One of the things that we are constantly looking for is elementary. We do not allow our classes to be more than 16 students. So we have a waiting list really for a lot of these younger ages, so the elementary core teacher is always one that we are going to need. All of our teachers sign a 2-year contract. They're not bound to stay with that if it isn't a good fit. But then at the end of 2 years, we do, kind of reevaluate, their experience. We have kept some families over there for 8 to 10 years now. And it's not that they all leave after 2 years, but they do have the option, to be able to move on. And so we're always, kind of trying to replace some of those, as the cycle happens every year. The next slide gives you a little bit more detail. We do need teachers that have 4-year degree to be our main teachers, just because of our accreditation, and our licensing there. We have a little bit of a different process to our hiring. I am in essence, because right now obviously it's 3 o'clock in the morning over there. So as far as me trying to, set up interviews with our administration team over there, we do that. We'll set up interviews and Skypes and different things to be able to have actual interviews with you after you do an initial application. But we take it through the process really of, I deal with anybody who's interested and start trying to answer any questions that they have. If it feels like this is going to be something that you want to pursue, then we set up really an online interview with one of our administrators, and then they basically talk through all the details with you. There we basically try to tell people we try to talk you out of coming more than we try to talk you in. I think one of the questions that was asked to Corey is, is how real is a cultural shock, and it is big. We like to have people that have had some international experience. It doesn't necessarily have to be to China, but I'm going to give a plug to some of these other English teaching places. If you're in an undergrad and you're interested in doing something that has to do with teaching, go do some of these short-term opportunities through the summer. Get your feet wet, get a taste of the culture. We would much rather you do that than come over, brand new. We like to try to eliminate the news. We do get a lot of teachers straight out of college. So that's their first job. It's their first, exposure away from mom and dad. It's their first international experience. There's a lot of firsts that happen there. And then if we can help you eliminate some of those first, your experience is going to be, much better. Offers, different contracts, what you're going to make is based on experience. It's based on, what degrees that you have. And after all that has been done, then they kind of hand you back to me, and we'll help you through all the process as far as getting your visas and making travel arrangements, making sure that everything is going to go as smoothly as possible. Next slide, please. The TLC is really a family. We are really blessed with the fact that all the majority of our teachers right now, it didn't start this way, but it is now that we are now a true Christian school. Now that is not on any of our, you go to the website, we don't say that we're a Christian organization for obvious reasons. We have the same regulations that, you're going to face. We're able to answer questions any way that we can. We do not have a specific Bible class or a Bible curriculum, but we do have different things that we're able to get that in. There is a lot of things that we do as far as a mentorship program. When you first come over, we do have some families and some teachers that have been over there. This is the 10th school year. So we do have some people that have been with us from the very beginning to be able to help you function. We have a mentorship partnership program for all of our new teachers. So you get partnered up with a family, and they really just kind of help you with all of the culture changes that you're going to have to deal with, help you to get to the Walmart, help you to get to, the IKEA, to be able to find things that you're going to want, so that you are able to just really adjust. And our TLC family is a massive group now of great families, and, that are very tight now, especially as we've grown, of a school that's pushing 400 now. It's a great community, to be able to have that church experience on Sunday, the ministry opportunities there. So you really feel like you're teaching, at a Christian school in the States, but your ministry opportunity is to be able to deal with literally children from all over, the world. We're in education first. We're a ministry based on education, but we want people to have a heart for ministry. It's very hard. It's very hard to do something long-term and away from everything without really the motivation to want to fulfill the Great Commission. We feel like everybody is called into that. Now, whether or not you're called into, Christian education in China, or whether Christian education in the States or some other parts of the world, that's not for me to be able to tell you, but everybody should have at the forefront of their career is to have a ministry mindset, and who is God putting in my areas of influence, that I can impact for the kingdom. And we want to have people that have that as their heart first and foremost, so that they can really be as successful as possible. The next slide, really, we are going to train you. we do have the ability to be able to help some of the people that want to teach, but then are interested in maybe moving into Hong Kong or moving into, Taiwan or Korea or some of these other countries that have asked us about coming in and would like to be a part of administration. We do have an opportunity for you to be trained while you're actually teaching. One of the great things about what we've been able to do with TLC is if you have a mission heart, most of the time you're raising support for a lot of these ministries to be able to do that. Because we are in an area that there's a couple of other international schools in Dongguan. We looked at, trying to be competitive with their pricing, and it's not cheap to be able to go to TLC. We're competitive with what they're doing. What that does is really allow us to be able to give you very competitive wages. We ask people to sign a 2-year contract. If they do sign a 2-year contract, we were able to pay for all of your transportation, over there and back, for the first 2 years. We're able to take care of your visas. We're able to, because of cost of living, we're able to give you extremely, competitive wages and give you opportunities to be able to actually pay off student loans. If you're wise with your money, we do have a program that helps you budget, how you're going to live, so that you can literally be able to have some opportunities there, in Christian education that aren't available, just honestly in the States. There is a transition support that we want you to know that for our new teachers, help you to adjust to this new culture. And we do assist you in everything that has to do with getting over there, being able to set up a place to live while you're there, and literally impact people all over the world. It's exciting we do have some people that have started with us in China and then have moved into Europe, and their plan is to move kind of across into some other different areas of the world, to teach. It's their goal out of college to be able to spend a few years, traveling and teaching in different cultures and getting that experience. And I think that's an awesome, plan. We like to partner with other international schools in different parts of the world, so that you're able to experience as much as we can help you experience. But the most important thing is people that are really wanting to come to, an opportunity to use education as a way to impact families across the world with the gospel. The last thing last slide there just really gives you an opportunity of where you can send your resumes. If you send a resume to myself and also to jobs at TLC DG, which is dongguan.com, we will immediately send you back an online application. You can look at the website on there and get some other information there. And obviously, besides asking questions now, if there's anything in the future that we can help you with, you can give me a call. I am based stateside to help all of our teachers in their transition process and really go try to help us keep a good flow, of new teachers coming in. So, make notes of that information. If you got any questions about that, we'll be happy to help you with any of that. So I'll open it up, send it back to you, let you guys go from there.
All right. Thank you, Matt. I really appreciate the presentation you gave and telling us about TLC International School. So like Matt said, if there's any questions you guys have, please throw them into the chat box and we will ask those of Matthew so he can answer them for you. And like I've asked every other presenter so far, Matthew, I'm going to ask you a question while the students kind of typing. What makes your school different than other organizations or schools that provide teachers overseas?
Well, one of the main things is that we are a true international school. There is, there are regulations for there's a big difference between teaching in an accredited international school versus doing English as a secondary language or conversational English. We've done all that, as well, but there is a big difference in the amount of time, that you can actually spend over there as far as creating an income for yourself. The international school is literally just like, teaching over here, so everything is going to be done in English. Every subject is taught, so there's a lot more opportunity. It's not just English. We're not necessarily looking for people that have a degree in, in teaching English as a secondary language. That we do have a program for that. But if you're a math teacher, you're going to be able to go over there. You're going to teach math just like you would teach it in the States. And everybody has to go through some training to be able to function in an English only environment, before they're able to actually come into some of those classes. So we have some programs if you are, a teaching English as a foreign language or teaching English as a secondary language, to help get those kids adjusted, to teach them enough English so that they can actually get into a history class or a math class, especially at that older levels. But if you are a secondary history teacher, you're a secondary math teacher, you're a biology teacher, and you say, listen, I really just want to teach overseas and have an opportunity to impact these kids. You have that opportunity in an international school where teaching English as a secondary language, the whole thing brings back to the ability to do conversational English. So there's some similarities to it, but it's definitely not the same.
Okay, great. A question I received, what are some of the unique teaching challenges with your school versus someone who might be teaching more stateside that people might not think of?
Well, I don't know if there's really, I think that the biggest challenges is just, looking at everybody and understanding that the majority of the time, this isn't their first language. For me, it actually makes you feel a little stupid as a teacher because, I only spoke one language. I mean, I spoke English, and I was literally teaching kids that spoke 3 or 4 or 5. And the difference to me, and, really the challenges do understand that they want to be there. And every other society that we deal with and every other culture seems to treat academics almost like we treat athletics, in the States. That was one of the things that was kind of, very humorous to me because I have a coaching background, and when we started our athletic programs, I would have players. They'd come to practice, and it was a day of a game, and they would come to me and say, Coach, I can't come tonight because I have a math test tomorrow and I got to study. I can't play in the game today. And I'm like, well, no. I mean, you need to. I mean, we don't have enough for you not to come. But the culture is where they were coming from was they really could care less about whether or not they played in this game. They had this math test tomorrow, and when we do our academic awards, it is standing room only. We beg people to come to an athletic game, and nobody shows up. It's about their focus is completely different. And so as a teacher, it's great, because they really dive into what we're trying to teach them and spend a whole lot more time and effort than what I see here in the States. So it's not necessarily a challenge. It's a good thing. And the challenge is to make sure that you're on point because they're there and they really want to be there. And that's really, to me, one of the biggest advantages.
Yeah, I can definitely hear the reverse culture shock in a way where it's like athletics are a different priority for people overseas than academics.
Right.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, just for the sake of time, we're going to have anybody else who has any questions to message you privately.
Great. Thank you.
Feel free to respond to that. Thank you again, Matthew, for presenting TLC International. We appreciate your participation.
My pleasure.
All right, so we have our next presenter is Jim Price representing ERRC. Jim, can you hear us? Oh, okay, let's see if we can. Jim, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, great. Now we can hear you too. Awesome. So good. We're going to have you present next on ERRC, and you can feel free to take it away.
Great. Now, let me ask you this, Keith. Are you running the slides from your position there? So I'll have to tell you when I have a transition.
Yep, you can go ahead and do that, and the slides will follow as you indicate.
Great, no problem. Well, it looks like China's a lot in the focus today. Corey and Matthew, great hearing you guys, and Jamie with Edward Jones. I don't know if Jamie's still with us, but I have to say that one of my daughters worked for 13 years as a branch office administrator with Edward Jones and just loved it. So any of you that are interested in the financial markets, that's a good way to go. So I'm here to talk about ERRC, Educational Resources and Referrals China. We've been involved in China for over 30 years, and we are a lot smaller organization than ELIC, but we have a great working relationship. We exchange a lot of information, and we're after the same goal, to impact China for Christ. So let's go to the next slide, Keith. Thank you. And let me introduce myself. Go ahead and bring in that next piece. Dr. Jim Price, and my wife is Peggy. We both taught PhD students English, oral, and writing proficiency in China's top university from 2011 to 13. And as Peggy and I look back on our years in ministry, we consider our time in China as some of the best years of our marriage and ministry together. So I'm now serving as the Director of Personnel Development for ERRC. Let's go ahead and do the next. And I spend my time seeking new teachers in whose hearts God has already been moving toward China. So one of the things that's important to me is to, as I visit with people, is to just see if God has provided a little itch, a little blip on the radar screen for teaching in China. And I've served as a pastor in the local church for over 45 years. And currently I serve as the pastor for all of our teachers in China. And as opposed to ELIC, we are strictly in China. So that's our focus. Martha Chan is our director and president and founder. She's Taiwanese, and 30 years ago, she had a vision to impact China by sending teachers. Okay, let's go to the next slide, Keith. Thank you very much. Here's our mission: to touch the heart and soul of China by sending committed Christians to teach in some of China's top universities in order to educate, inspire, and influence for Christ some of China's future leaders. So let's stay there just for a few minutes. We send Christians. We don't necessarily send career educators. You can have a degree in any field, but if you're a native-born English speaker, then and you have a heart for going to China, then we are definitely open to that interest for you. Our focus has always been to place teachers in some of China's top universities. Although we do have one K through 12 school that we can place teachers at that are trained in education of the K through 12 area, our real focus is the university system in China. And our mission is to inspire and begin to have some of China's future leaders ask the important questions in life. So that's our mission, and let's go to the next slide and see what else we have here. About ERRC, we're a nonprofit religious organization that's been sending qualified Christians to teach in China for over 30 years. The government of China knows about our organization, and they know that we send Christians to teach. In fact, they're very much in favor of that. They love the morality, they love the professionalism of the teachers that we've been sending. And of course, they just don't want you to preach in the classroom, but surely developing relationships is part of what we do. We want to teach with professionalism and serve as ambassadors for Christ, becoming a visible expression of his hands, feet, and his voice. Having been in the ministry for so many years before Peggy and I went to China, we went with the intention of shepherding our students to find ways that we can encourage and bless them. And also in the classroom to find creative ways to get them to ask the tough questions of life. And it's really a blessing to do this with college-age students because they are, at this point in their life, interested in those eternal issues of life, the important questions of life, and we can engage with them in after classroom coffee, tea, lunch, whatever. So we're seeking those Christians who love to teach and have a passion for influencing students both inside and outside of the classroom for Christ. So regardless of what field you may be majoring in, if you love to teach, we'd love to be able to visit with you. Okay, let's look at a few more things. We are not a job placement agency, but a mission organization that mobilizes Christians to teach in China. And I think the other two presenters, same thing. We're not into job placement, but we are a mission organization. When approved by ERC and placed in a university, our teachers become members of the foreign faculty. You receive a salary along with a nice apartment to live in. So you're not going to get rich, but they provide enough funds for you to be able to live in China. We place all new teachers in universities that already have a teaching team in place. You know, like ELIC, you're never isolated. And most classrooms are modern with all the available technology, including equipment for PowerPoint presentations. Okay, let's go to the next slide. We are touching the heart of China by teaching with a godly mindset. It's a little skewed there, but that's okay. And building friendships. So that's what being in China is all about. I want to just share with you, in the classroom, you have lots of creative freedom to create lesson plans as God leads you to do. For one of the lessons that Peggy and I taught our graduate students was a writing curriculum. And they had to do essays, and one of the essays was a compare-contrast essay. And so both Peggy and her classroom and mine, we got up and for 20 minutes introduced their next assignment as we told the story of the prodigal son and his older brother. And their assignment was to talk about the differences between the two sons. And you get some initial things back. They would often, I would get an email back, Dr. Price, that story's in the Bible, isn't it? So a lot of these students have had parents and grandparents who have given them at least a little bit of Bible knowledge. Let's go to the next slide, Keith. You can have fun with your students. Peggy and I did campus tours. Another assignment was for the students to get together, plan a tour of the top places to see on campus. You pretend that you are going to be the visiting president from Stanford or Berkeley or Harvard, and they are supposed to give you a tour. So this is both Peggy and myself on one of those campus tours. Okay, next slide, Keith. Professors can teach a wide range of university subject. It doesn't have to be English. But if you have an advanced degree, master's or above in computer science, chemistry, agriculture, architecture, design, journal of business history, you can find some occasional openings where the university is looking for such a specialized teacher. The lady on the left-hand side of the screen, Pam Holt, is a PhD in chemistry, and she's been teaching chemistry in English, of course, in one of China's top universities. Okay, next slide. And English teachers use values-based curriculum. As I've just mentioned to you, you can create an assignment to help them think about some important things. I remember one assignment, we did a Josh Groban song, When I Am Down, and Who Lifts Me Up? And so we had them write a little essay on what do you do when you're discouraged and down? What lifts you up? And every once in a while, you'll find a student say, you know, I read the Bible. So kind of interesting. And then lots of fabulous opportunities to teach during the holiday season, Thanksgiving, Christmas, Easter. They want to know about our holidays. and the students are very excited to do this. If we could hang there for just a minute, Keith, a real quick story. My very first semester, I had it all planned on Easter to tell the Easter story, and at the beginning of class, I saw this person come in. I didn't know him, set up a video camera in the back, and it was a 2-hour class, so we did lots of other things before I had my Easter presentation. And before the class, as I saw him setting up, it was a real soul check at that point. Do I go ahead and tell the Easter story? Well, you tell the Easter story like this, that Christians believe that Jesus came and lived a perfect life. He died on the cross. He rose again, and that's what Easter's about. And every Christian believes that when Jesus died on the cross, he died for our sins. So you don't proselytize. You don't tell them that you need to become a Christian. You just let the Holy Spirit do his work, and you open that door for them to understand what Christians believe. Well, after class, one of my students came and they said, Dr. Price, do you know what that person was doing in the back? Well, I said no, and they said, well, he's from our communications department, and they wanted to videotape as a training exercise how a Western teacher teaches English. So that particular session with the Easter presentation is a training tool for Chinese teachers who want to see how Westerners teach English. So next slide, please. Thank you, Keith. We have our university teaching program where you can go for a semester or a year, very similar to ELIC, trying to get them to think about the major issues in life, morality and faith and purpose. Okay, next slide. And we also have a short-term summer teaching, again like ELIC. You can go for 3 to 6 weeks. You can be a lead teacher, but you can also be an intern, an undergrad college student. You serve as a conversational partner in the classroom. You can organize games. You can organize activities. The teacher will use our college interns in creative ways. Okay, next slide. Provides an opportunity to build meaningful and lasting relationships with students. Even after just 3 weeks teaching middle and high school students, you build those relationships. And for many teachers, going for just that 3 weeks kind of lights a little fire, and eventually they go back to teach for the longer term program. Okay, next. Qualifications. Chinese universities require teachers to have a minimum of a bachelor's degree in any subject and 2 years of teaching experience in a classroom setting. Chinese universities also require teachers to have had either formal TESOL training or a certificate from a reputable online program consisting of 60 to 120 hours. Undergraduate students can go to China for a few weeks during the summer and serve under the guidance of a lead teacher, acting as a conversational partner for middle and high school students. Let's stop right there for just a minute. And if you look at the first one, about 2 years of teaching experience in a classroom, there are lots of ways to work this. If you've been a small group leader, a Sunday school teacher, our president, Martha Chan, can work some creative things with your resume, your CV that we send to China to get you approved. So, you know, for my own self, only for 1 semester had I taught on a college campus. I've been a pastor for 40 plus years at that time. So doing some real creative work got both my wife and me into teaching in China at one of the top universities. Okay, next. Little more information. When approved, ERC negotiates your contract with one of China's leading institutions. and processes the invitation letter from the institution so you can get your visa. We provide step-by-step guidance in all processing of the information and forms needed to get you to China. And we provide a week-long orientation in Oakland, California for all new university program teachers. You actually live in a bed and breakfast. We have meals together. You're going to learn a little bit of Chinese language, Mandarin, but it's a lot of Chinese history, culture, classroom instruction. We try to cover a lot of bases before we send you to China, okay? Next. Most teachers need to raise support from their home church, other churches, family, and friends. Again, we are a mission organization like others that you've heard today, but ELIC especially. But here's the thing on raising support. If you sense that God is nudging you toward China, and if people know you and they know the gifts God has given you, if they are aware of Christ's work in your life, and you present the vision of going to China to help influence some of China's future leaders, or if you're going to the summer for middle school and high school students, people will catch the vision that God has given you. And many of our teachers have found that once they present the vision and once people realize that God has called them, the support generally comes in as needed. Okay? Thank you for listening. You can reach me, Jim Price, at that email or my cell phone, 916-200-5096. Next, Keith. And that's it. Questions? Thank you for listening.
All right. Thank you, Jim. We appreciate your presentation, and we're just going to wait for students to type their questions into the chat box for you.
Okay.
Able to ask you some. And before they do that, I have a question for you, Jim, just to kind of get us started for you.
Go right ahead.
So since you're also an organization that sends teachers to China, do you have any other opportunities besides teaching that are found within ERRC for other people who may not be so focused on being in the classroom and still wanting to assist from an educational standpoint?
Well, from our office standpoint, Keith, we've got a staff, and Martha, who speaks Mandarin, she often looks, although it's not necessary, for people to work in the office part-time or full-time that are fluent Mandarin speakers. We also have, of course, full English opportunities in our office. We have vacancies that come up every once in a while. So other than that, our focus is really pretty narrow. We send teachers to China. And there's lots of great ministries out there, digging water wells and medical teams and everything else. But if you have a passion to teach and God has placed China on your heart, then that's what we do.
Awesome. Thank you, Jim. I have a question here from a student. This student is in the School of Divinity here at Regent University. And this student asked, how hard is it to transition to teaching?
Well, Peggy and I, working with people for the years that we found the transition was really easy. We did not find it difficult. When we stepped off that plane in Beijing, we looked at each other and said, honey, we have landed in China. And of course, what really sold us was the first Chinese meal, which was awesome. But, most of the places where we have universities, they're modern cities. You have Western markets that you can go to. We have never really been without, as far as really any needs, either food or supply-wise. Every once in a while, there might be a specialty item that we can send you. Peggy and I are going back to China right after Thanksgiving to visit our teachers, and we always take things that they ask for as well as gifts. But the transition to the classroom, if you've been teaching from the pulpit, Sunday school, small groups, and if you love to teach, then teaching is going to come pretty naturally, and you'll be able to pick it up pretty easily.
Awesome, Jim. Thank you so much. We're going to continue moving forward just for the sake of time, and any additional questions students will have, they can privately chat with you and message you
Great.
for the rest of our time here. Sound good?
Sounds great.
All right. So we'll have one final presenter. This is Scott Wozniak. He is representing S-WOS Leadership, and he will be ready to go and give us a presentation from his organization. Scott, are you there?
I am. What, can you guys hear me? I'm getting an error on my sound. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, great. Well, then never mind. Well, let's get started. And let me tell you a little bit about SWOS Leadership and the opportunity that we have. So if you'll go to the next slide, we're going to go kind of quick through these first few. I'm not going to read these word for word because I figure you guys can do that, and I want us to get out on time. But basically, we're a leadership development company, and we work all over the world doing training, coaching, online programs, written books, and workshops, and all sorts of individual stuff. So literally work on multiple continents and work with Fortune 500 companies and entrepreneurs, and it's a whole bunch of fun. What I want to talk to you about is one of the divisions of that. Let's switch to the next slide. And there you go. Again, I won't read all this. This is a little bit about me. And I'll just tell you a bit about my story and how it connects to the opportunity that we have. So long story short, I started off in an unusual space doing musical theater performance. I grew up doing it. Actually, that's my bachelor's degree. Did some professional work and said, you know, I don't actually want to do this. I realized I loved making a difference, and theater was just one of the ways that I could make a difference. And so I set out to explore what are all the other ways that I could make a difference in the world that aren't necessarily just a stage thing. And so long story short, I actually went into ministry and have done a lot of the kind of coaching and training and teaching. I was a pastor and did evangelism and mission trips and all sorts of great stuff. And as I became a leader, I got passionate about leadership and began to see how critical leadership was for making a difference in the kingdom and in the world. And God really kind of, I think, called me to a specific passion in ministry to say, you know what, I think the way God wants to use my gifts is to lead in such a way that people's lives are better, people's worlds are better, and to invest in leaders so that they can lead better. That actually led to a Master's of Leadership, Organizational Leadership from Regent. So I'm a Regent grad, graduated in 2004 with my master's there. And while I was there, I started doing some coaching consulting work with Dr. Joseph Umidi. If any of you guys know him, did some stuff with him, did a couple projects on the side. And after working with him for a little bit, ended up starting my own company and going into leadership and doing a bunch of training and developing. And one of the unique relationships is that I ended up working for a period of time at the Chick-fil-A corporate headquarters. And this is where we come back to the opportunity today. The Chick-fil-A corporate headquarters, Chick-fil-A is a unique organization. And I'll be honest, when I first had the opportunity, so my friends were like, hey, you should really talk to Chick-fil-A. You do this leadership stuff. And honestly, my reaction was like, yeah, I don't think you get what I do. Like, thanks, buddy. It was a friend from high school. It's like, but, I don't know. What would I do? Like, I'm a ministry leadership guy. Like, what would I do at a fast food restaurant? And I really had no idea how different Chick-fil-A was. And it is not normal. So long story short, I ended up going back to my own company after 8 wonderful years working directly for the executives in the founding family, doing all sorts of leadership initiatives for them. Launched back to my own company full-time, had a bunch of adventures. And I did a lot of work with Chick-fil-A on the side, but one of the opportunities that came up in this process is an opportunity to help find leaders and build a leadership development program for Chick-fil-A. So if you'll go to the next slide, I want to talk about the opportunity. Long story short, bottom line, we have opportunities. In fact, we're currently placing over 100 leaders in locations all over the U.S. For senior leaders at the restaurant level. It is a well-paid, generous benefits job. I mean, it's a full-time job, but it is not just a job. It is very much a leadership development program. The restaurants who have signed up for this program have signed a special contract to do more than just have employees, but to take them through specific leadership curriculum, do minimum amount of mentoring, provide rotation through different critical roles in the business so they get a chance to run the whole thing, and to deliberately grow leaders. They had to apply and get approved that they are truly leadership development people. Not only did they have to prove their business was high performing, they also had to talk about their heart and their skills in terms of mentoring, developing, and launching leaders. Because the point of this program is not to find more Chick-fil-A employees. The point of this program is to find people who want to become leaders, develop them as leaders, and then launch more leaders out into the world. I mean, it's going to sound crazy, but they literally just want to release leaders into the world who make a better difference. Now, it also so happens that, let me tell you a little bit about Chick-fil-A and what people mostly don't know. Chick-fil-A restaurants, there's two aspects that most people don't realize how significant they are. One is the scale and scope of them, and the second that most people don't realize is really how incredibly significant the activity in their local community can be. So I'll talk about each. So let me give you context. So the average Subway will do about $900,000 in sales this year. The average Arby's or KFC, they're both about similar. They'll do about 1.2 million in sales this year per restaurant. The average Chick-fil-A will do about 5.3 million in sales this year. I mean, they are about 5 times as big as their competitors. And too often, Chick-fil-A suffers from what I would call the fast food stigma. People are like, oh, it's fast food. They think of all the other fast food experiences they've had. Even Chick-fil-A, you just think work in a register. Like, I didn't go to a great school like Regent to go work a register. And I would agree with you. You should use your skills at the next level. They don't need more register workers. They need leaders. This is folks at the senior level. There's a leadership team in these restaurants, 4 to 6 leaders that report directly to the franchise owner that run the enterprise. 100 to 120 employees. We need HR directors, finance directors. We need folks who want to do marketing and do community service events and create buzz in the community. People who want to be trainers and developers and run training programs in the restaurant. Again, we don't need just more register workers. Now, what's fun about this is it's not a desk job. This is not a scenario where you're somebody else's assistant and you watch them run the organization and you take care of paperwork. This is a leadership position. And they do not require that you have been a Chick-fil-A employee before that. We have training programs to teach you how to do all the little operational stuff. They're looking for leaders. So I'm going to go through a couple of these basic things on what the program gets you. So it's a decision-making leadership role, reporting directly to the owner. You will run the department. Rather than wait around and hope that someday if you do enough work, you can work your way up the ladder and become a leader. You'll start leading whole teams, departments. You'll hire. If necessary, you'll be a part of the firing process. You'll do the training. You'll set strategy. You'll manage major projects. I mean, people will report to you. You'll have to do evaluations. You'll lead. The salary is 39 to 45K, depending on, that's kind of a base, depending on where you are at in hours and whether you want to work 45 or 50 hours a week. Some of those things get negotiated for each location. The benefits are pretty generous. Health insurance, cell plan, they give you gym membership. Personally, I think the free meals are not small benefit. I enjoy quite a bit of that. Again, personal mentoring by the CEO of each location will spend one-on-one time with you in addition to the team time, investing in not just the business, but you as your life, asking you, what are you working on growing? How's your personal life doing? It is not a ministry in the sense that we do not require, or they do not have a sort of Christian creed that they go through. I can tell you that the vast majority of these folks, part of what drew them to Chick-fil-A is the connection of a Christian values. And all the people in our program have said, I want to develop the whole person, their spirit, their brain, their skills, the interpersonal abilities. I mean, we want to help them become better people and launch leaders into the world. Again, experience multiple parts of the business. You'll get specific tips about how the best to do this. We'll get studies. And honestly, you get a famous brand on your resume. It makes a real difference to be able to say, oh, I was a senior leader in this very famous brand. So we'll go to the next slide. Okay, so again, what we're not looking for is restaurant people. You don't have to want to be a restaurant person afterwards. You don't have to be a restaurant person now. Interesting little sidebar. About 10% of the franchisees in Chick-fil-A actually came out of Christian ministry positions. They were youth pastors or senior pastors or missionaries, and said, you know what, I feel like God's calling for me at this time is to run a restaurant precisely as my ministry. Especially, I want to challenge you to think about this. If you have a passion for discipleship and making life-on-life impact, when you're a pastor, which I was at one point, I had wonderful times. And if I got 2 or 3 hours a week with somebody, that would be a crazy intense discipleship relationship. When you are the boss over 100 people, some of these folks, especially the ones that will work the same shift as you, you'll get 20 or 30 hours of life-on-life impact. The chance to get invested in people and mentor and raise people up is really, really significant. And 69% of the employees in Chick-fil-A are in high school or college. And so there's this massive mentoring opportunity here. So the kind of people we're looking for are not technical skills. Though, of course, if you've worked at a Chick-fil-A restaurant, that's a nice little bonus. We're looking for character, leadership character, a fast learner, self-starter, where you're going to kind of take the initiative yourself rather than waiting around for someone to tell you what to do. A hunger to learn. Remember, this is a development program, not just a go through, get a job. A servant spirit. I think great leaders are people who want to see others succeed, not just themselves. A drive for excellence. You will be stepping into one of the most excellent and famous brands in the US. If you can take fast food and turn it into an impact, it's a big difference. And strong interpersonal communication skills. You're going to be leading people from the beginning. So we need folks who can really interact well with other people. Job experience, a 0. I mean, if you're the right kind of person, we can train you on the technical stuff. And locations. We have locations everywhere. We have them in Virginia Beach, so if you want to stay right around that area, or Richmond or DC, but gosh, we've got them in Denver and Southern California and Florida and Texas and Pennsylvania. And literally over 100 locations for December grads, and we probably have about 200 locations for May grads. So lots of opportunity for folks. If you're interested, we can talk to you about locations. We do want folks who have a bachelor's degree. This is a full-time job, and we hope to launch you at the end of this to the next phase. So I'm going to say a couple of words about the launch, and then I'm going to kind of close up and talk about Chick-fil-A at all. So for the launch, at the end of this experience, we are looking to launch people to the next space. So it could be that you want to stay in Chick-fil-A, and the franchise opportunity is ridiculous in a great sense. The average franchisee made $370,000 this year. Not that you're in it for the money. I'm going to talk more about the other side in a second, but you can have a lot of impact for the money. There's a guy I know who literally is one of the franchisees. He runs an orphanage on the side in Russia. As in, he takes the money that he makes from his business and funds an orphanage with it, and brings his leadership team there once a year at least on a mission trip, and pretty phenomenal opportunity. And so now it's crazy competitive to become a franchisee. It's not a guarantee that if you work for them, you become a franchisee. But you should know that about 65% of the franchisees come out of the restaurant program like this. So much, much better chances. And let me end with this. So let's flip to the next slide. Let me get a couple of these details. Just so you know, it is a 2.5-year commitment. It is not legally binding, but we just want you in good faith to know this is what you're signing up for. We're going to invest in you. Stay around long enough to build the restaurant. If you'll flip to the next slide. Yes. Okay. So here we are. So here's the opportunities. You can stay in the restaurant. Some people really love the career of the restaurant. They discover there's more mentoring and impact than they can think. Not an obligation in any of these. These are just options. Again, the corporate headquarters, there's 2,000 folks and they're still hiring more every year at the corporate headquarters. I worked there for a while. It's a great experience. Owning your own restaurant and opening a franchise. Again, I talked a little bit about that. And I'll just pause and say that in the community, these guys are pillars of their community, not just through the financial giving, but the customer service. The way Chick-fil-A grows its business is by doing noble things in the community, partnering with schools, churches, running 5K races for causes, creating veterans events, daddy-daughter date nights to create family experiences. We believe you grow your business, and they teach you how to do this by making your community a better place. And so you really minister is how you market. It's really fascinating. And then we've got schools that you can go back and, get some real life experience, learn a bunch, and then bring that experience back to a master's program, including Regent University has a partnership with Chick-fil-A. There's a 25% scholarship discount that you would get if you have come out of a Chick-fil-A program like this. So it's a chance to maybe rethink what it means to make a difference in the world. And shocker, I originally said, I don't think you get it, because what would I do at a fast food restaurant? And then I eventually started talking with Chick-fil-A just because my friends were insistent. And I discovered you can change the world through a fast food restaurant. It's not what you think. And there's an opportunity for people, even if just for the next 2.5 years, to become a leader and take your leadership in life to the next level and use the skills and relationships you build to kind of accelerate the entire rest of your career. So I'll leave you with this. Rather than start slow and kind of go be somebody's assistant and sit around and hope it works, I'd suggest you to jump in the deep end, get in the fast lane, start fast, get mentored, get trained, and kick your career off as a senior leader. And if that's interesting to you, last slide here. Then contact me. You can find all the details of the program, this and more, at ascentleadershipprogram.com. Or, of course, contact me anytime. That's my personal email and cell phone. Would love to talk with you guys. I'm done and ready for any questions you guys have.
All right. Thank you, Scott. We appreciate your patience and your time presenting to us. There's an immediate question here. What is involved in your leadership curriculum in a bit more detail?
Great. So it's an exclusive leadership curriculum that this is, again, we're a leadership development company, and I just kind of stumbled into this recruiting scenario. So it's a exclusive online program, personalized emails, one-on-one meetings. It's a whole package combination. And so long story short, it is, we call it Thriving Organizations. It's based on a study, 2.5-year study of how the best leaders of the best organizations operate different than what we call kind of average leaders. And it's got components on personal development, vision casting, building community, and then the discipline of execution. And so lots of really practical, tactical things. Here's tools, work kits, and then it's all tailored, of course, to the kind of role you have that you're leading at the time. So we'll talk to you about how you do hiring while you're in charge of the hiring phase. So it's got cool, exclusive, unique leadership theory, but then all sorts of really practical tools. Try this out, because guess what? Now you're in charge of this. So it's built for this program.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Another question that just came up to me was, the student says here, so with this leadership program, what's the typical result of like where your leadership participants end up in terms of their work afterwards? What kind of roles they tend to have afterwards? What's your outcomes from your program?
Excellent. So I would say about half of them end up in what I'd call diverse leadership roles. Anything from ministry organizations like Focus on the Family to business organizations to starting their own entrepreneurial venture, getting with a partner and starting something up. So about half of them go there. I would say the other half split between pursuing graduate school and pursuing kind of Chick-fil-A path opportunities. So the 25% go grad school, and the other 25% will pursue, they're in the path for the Chick-fil-A franchisee selection process, or they're working at the corporate headquarters. So that's about kind of how folks are doing it.
Okay, great. Another question here. This one's from a student named Victor. He asked, what opportunities for someone who's in Regents School of Business and Leadership? He's getting a doctorate in strategic leadership, and he's majoring in coaching, especially opportunities outside of the Ascend program. Are there any opportunities in your international consulting and coaching engagements?
Yes, excellent. So that's an entirely other discussion. I didn't give any details on that, but we do wonderful pile of work. We've got a whole coaching division in particular. And so we both train coaches, but also provide coaching services to probably, 60 or 70 leaders right now in a variety of different organizations, and it's growing like mad. So I would say, email me and let's talk. And I can talk to you specifically about kind of our coaching approach, our rates, how we find our clients. And I'm always looking for folks to do that. So we've got about a dozen folks that work with us in terms of different coaching or training capacities on staff. So yeah, love to talk to you.
Okay. All right. Now we have a question here from John. I'm going to have him be unmuted so we can ask you personally.
Awesome.
All right, John, you can go right on ahead.
Thank you very much, Keith. Mr. Wozniak, I just really want to thank you for your time. I've done some research on you and your company, and just some amazing work. I heard you read 100 books a year. I'm at about.
You love to read.
Cat the Hat's kind of a challenge for me, but I do what I can.
Sure.
I have a question for the students who may not have graduated yet, to receive a bachelor's like myself. I'm a senior, and I have about 8 months left. I have an associate's in business, but I'm working towards that bachelor's. Would you still encourage us to apply for such a position?
Yeah. So sounds like, you're looking at a May graduation kind of scenario, maybe even in the summer. So yes, totally. We are actually starting the conversation now. We're not making final decisions. Probably till February is when we'll start making real placement decisions for people who are going to graduate in May. But yeah, put your name in the hat. We'll start the process. There's no rush, but we're glad to talk to you about opportunities. And for any of you who are interested in just getting, kind of just want to check out Chick-fil-A even, this is not a requirement by any stretch, but I've got tons of local contacts wherever you're at. So in the Virginia Beach, you could even just kind of go talk to one of the locals there, get a part-time job or whatever. But in terms of the long-term program, sure, apply now and we'll start talking with you. It's not a penalty. So if you wanted to wait a few months and do it later, that will work too. But we will start interviewing those folks. We already started a few of them now. We'll start seriously working on that in January and February. So if you want to get in the first wave, we'd love to talk with you.
Yes, sir. I'm very interested, and I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, John.
All right. Well, thank you, Scott. It's a few minutes after 4, so we'll conclude our time here. And since you have your contact info up there, the students can jot that down as well and get to you and message you with any questions they may have. And to the rest of us here, from all of us at Career Services, thank you guys so much for being participants in this virtual career fair. I'd like to recognize just a few people. Sarah Williams, who's our student chat moderator. Stephen Witherspoon, who is another moderator that's assisting in the chat box, as well as Samantha Mitchell, who's organized and coordinated all of this. She's done a lot of great work, and we just like to recognize her leadership in that endeavor. And again, to students and employers, thank you guys so much. If you'd like to get more information, we will have this recording be made available specifically to those who registered. So if you weren't able to pick up what was said earlier, you can feel free to go back to the recording, or you can contact the employers personally. They have provided their contact information for you. So again, thank you guys so much, and pray you guys all have a blessed week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Keith.